Hello again, it's Garson, and today we're going all the way back to Act 1, because how many times does this happen? You see like a cool Warlock build, or on my channel, or somebody else's channel, right? And you're like, well, that's cool at level 12, but like, is it actually strong early game? How do I get up to it, right? So what I like to do is cover some of the classes or builds early on. So let's just see the power of Warlock in the first act of the game, right? So if you come up to some dialogues at level 3, Fezric here, we want to save the gnome. What the hells are you doing? Release the gnome at once, right? Now you could use your Illithid mark here, but it might be out, or you don't want to use it, right? So there is intimidation or persuasion checks since we use charisma as a warlock, right? So let's try and persuade him. And warlocks get the ability to use a cantrip called friends, right? So if you know you're not going to talk to this guy again, let's add advantage. We get 2 dice roll, making our chances better. And we got a cleric with us, so we'll have some little guidance from Shadowheart here, all right? We roll this, bada bing, bada boom, we get a 19, we add our charisma and other bonuses to it, and boom. What do you know? He pissed off. All right, so we just got a little 70 and 120 XP for the whole party, and we didn't even get in combat, and we can now talk to Barkus and help him. All right, but also it's nice to walk, or like talk the talk, but what about walk the walk, right? Can we do some sizable damage in combat, right? And I always like to suggest people with Warlock, you should go for the Pact of the Tome, or a Pact of the Blade rather, right? And you should also get a little focus on Eldritch Blast right off the beginning, since you're heavily using charisma, right? So, as a Pact of the Blade with a Warlock, you can make any weapon your best friend with the Bind Pact weapon. So if you've already got a really good weapon that you want to use, like this bludgeoning weapon, it's not that great, but as you play through the game, you'll get better weapons, right? Or you can even make your own weapon if somebody's already using the better items. You can make your own Pact weapon right here, okay? So you're never without a weapon. And this will get better over the time of the game, right? So I choose a hammer. Now I have the ability to use bludgeoning as a combat melee weapon. And as a human, I can use a shield. And I can also have a powerful ranged attack using force damage and my charisma with Eldritch Blast. And if you know what you're really doing, you can hide. And you can get a sneak attack in. And now they're all surprised, right? So let's look at that real quick. I just shot him with a ranged attack. This ridiculous 60-foot range straight attack with using my magic as an attack roll right here, using my charisma, and I did 7 damage, okay? So it did 1d10 force damage and 3 charisma damage added on, huh? And I also use charisma for my attack roll, my accuracy, okay? So pretty interesting, and I'm going to show you some more interesting stuff to show you why you should probably run a Warlock in as something as dangerous as honor mode or tactician difficulties, right? So let's roll it back just a little bit. I'll show you that in and out of combat, Warlock, there's a reason it's my favorite class, and not just because it's strong late game, but even in the early game. So as always, I'm going to pop out some notes. We're going to talk about the early game Warlock, and I'm actually going to use a level 4 example for you. But as always, I appreciate you watching. If you want to support the channel, it's been wild crazy. The support's been wild. So just check that out at the end. If you can make it all the way to the end, hopefully I can help you first, and then you can help support the channel, right? But first off, let's find a patron today, because if you find a patron today and become a Warlock, let me tell you, it's pretty awesome. So let me just briefly go over some of these key aspects here. Why Warlock, what charisma does for the class, what the Pact magic is, invocations, Pact of the Blade specifically, and Eldritch Blast. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with this really deadly combo you can get off at a level 3 Warlock, actually. And we'll see it within combat and out of combat once again, okay? So why Warlock? Let's actually take a look at our lovely Warlock right here. So what I want to kind of go over is some of the stats, but just for flavor, what I like about Warlock is, I think we all have a conception about what a Warlock is, but in Baldur's Gate and D&D, apparently a Warlock is you granted your power not through a god, not through a covenant, not through an oath or anything like that, but actually by forming a pact with a patron. This patron could be like a demon lord, or it could be like, you know, some fey spirit, some hag actually, you know, or it could even be some great old one. Ooh, okay. But, you know, just for flavor aside, if we're looking at the gameplay, Warlocks get the single best cantrip in the game, and I like to equate this thing, Eldritch Blast, because it's freaking cool. I mean, obviously the first time you see someone rip this out, boom, right? You're like, damn, I want to play that guy. But by level 2, you can actually make this as strong as it's going to be, and then you can multi-class into anything. Just a little bit of Warlock gives you this power, right? But obviously in the early game, you're not really multi-classing. So by level 2 or 3, just having this alone is extremely powerful in combat. So it's the best cantrip in the game that upgrades with you, no matter how you multi-class or stay in the class. As long as you're leveling up, it gets better and better, and there's ways to make it even stronger. They also have a very interesting way of casting spells with Pact magic, which we'll go over, but this essentially gives you spell slots that work on their own, and they're always their max power, as you can see, 2 Warlock spell slots, and they come back on short rest. So if you're playing with a fighter or a bard or a monk, this is a great combo to play with those guys, because they all get their resources back on short rest, okay? And in these early game fights, you can really rip out spells without wasting spell slots, because you're just like, we'll just use them and then short rest, right? So we call this kind of like a gish, but essentially any character that does pretty good at spellcasting and melee or like combat with weapons, we call that a gish. But the easy terminology here, because I don't like to get into this in my videos, I'll just keep it simple for you. It's basically a hybrid. So usually the best Warlock play, the best and probably one of the most fun ways to play your Warlock is hybrid. You get a good mix between playing with weapons and also spells, thanks to these spellcasting slots and this awesome cantrip, right? And then invocations are sort of like class perks, or you could think of it as feats that are only available to Warlocks. As you level up more into the Warlock, you can choose exclusive class feats. So instead of Tavern Brawler, you get something like Devil Sight as a choice, and Devil Sight will allow you to see almost like superior dark vision, and there's a little perk to this which we'll go over later. Then you get a choice of 3 packs. So not only at level 1 do you get 3 subclasses. I should highlight that here, but it's really not that important. Look into the subclasses yourself. They're all really interesting, but what's even more important is no matter what subclass you go into, at level 3 you pick a pact. And pact, we're going to talk about Pact of the Blade today, but just know there's 2 other pacts, and they can change how you play and make your Warlock and multi-class it, or maybe you go all the way to 12. But pacts are almost like a subclass in and of themselves. Since we're talking about Pact of the Blade today, right? Pact of the Blade is essentially going to allow us to do that hybrid gameplay that you typically find Warlock builds do, where you can fight with a weapon, right? And instead of using your strength and dexterity, you'll be able to use your charisma for not only your Eldritch Blast and your magic, but also for your weapon attacks, because we just use Pact magic, or Pact of the Blade, and make it a charisma weapon. So that's really cool, okay? But just know there's 2 other packs. They're really interesting, and they can treat them almost like a subclass of how to change your Warlock gameplay, right? But why do I recommend them for early game? How do you play them early game? Something I say at the end of a lot of my videos. This is why I do early game videos, to show you, how do you actually use that leveling it up? So in Act 1, what they're great at right off the bat is they're great talkers, as you saw with the goblins over here. Because they're using a charisma stat, right, you can get these proficiencies, but also add your charisma spell stat. You're going to use this for your Eldritch Blast and your spells, but outside of combat, it's also going to benefit you from not getting into combat. And if you can talk your way out of situations, especially in honor mode, where you can't just reload the game, right? You can still get experience points and talk your way out of really harsh fights, okay? They're also powerful ranged attackers. Even if you don't take Pact of the Blade, you'll always be able to rely on this cantrip, and it's one of the most powerful things. And like I said, it upgrades itself at 5 and 10, respectively, those level ups, and becomes more and more powerful throughout your journey, right? And it's just really reliable. And once again, it's just operating off of that charisma stat. And if you go Pact of the Blade, you can still be a melee character as well. So you have all your bases covered. Dialogue, in and out of combat, ranged, melee, spellcasting, martial, right? And they even have a very powerful combo with darkness early on in the game at level 3, okay? So let's talk about the charisma stat real quick, okay? Like I was getting at before, you have these proficiency bonuses, and when you're creating your character, and based on what class or race you chose, you can get your proficiency bonuses. As a Warlock, since you're already going to be using charisma as your main stat, right, you get so much value out of it. And this is what we call a face character, that actually uses these 4 proficiencies. They get a bonus from investing in charisma, and your cheat sheet here is how much do I actually get as a bonus. Well, at 17, it's an odd number, so it's really rounded down to 16. you're going to get a +3 charisma bonus to anything related to that. Well, outside of combat, that means you get a +3 to these dialogue options. Like you saw earlier, I could either, I think it was a deception and intimidation against him, or persuasion, right? So I get a bonus not just from charisma, but also if I have a proficiency star next to this, okay? And comboing these, I now have a +5 bonus, as you can see here. So I'm very persuasive in dialogue. I can keep myself out of combat if I want to, right? And why I recommend a feat like Actor at level 4, first off, right? Let's say we leveled up and got to 4 before we were going to do anything too heavily, right? Let's go into this. I'll take hold person and whatnot, and I'll take my first feat. I recommend all the time in my Warlock builds or charisma builds Actor, because if you make a character, you can usually get one stat to 17, which really isn't that beneficial unless you know you can get that +1 bonus. So Actor's a crazy feat. It's really deceptive how good it is, because you're going to get the stat up to 18. You're going to get off of that odd number of 17, get that +1 to 18, right? But you also get proficiency doubled up for deception and performance, okay? So let's take this. I'm now level 4 Warlock, and see those bonuses from earlier? This is now double the proficiency bonus, not 2, but 4 in deception and performance. And I know this from playing Warlock a bunch, especially in honor mode. I've talked my way out of combat. I've even killed people by talking to them, just making them kill themselves because I'm so persuasive or deceptive, because I had such a high charisma bonus and expertise bonus, double stars, in my deception checks that I've made people just talk to them to death. So in the early game, we can really stay out of some dangerous fights while getting really good experience by using our charisma and knowing about that Actor feat. And better than that, because charisma is so loaded as a Warlock, as a stat, it does everything for us. In combat, I now have a +4 bonus to, say, my weapon attacks or my Eldritch Blast, right? And any kind of magic I use is going to be related back to that. And this is really what I love about Warlock. So it's really your everything stat. It can be used as your spell modifier. It's used as your, like, you could think of Eldritch Blast as your arrow, bow and arrow attack, right? And then you can use it to talk your way up encounters. And so I always highly recommend that Actor feat at level 4, okay? Really not just for Warlocks, any charisma character, but that's why, okay? Then, like I said, Pact magic is the unique way of how Warlocks use their spell slots. Have you ever been, like, sort of intimidated by spell slots and you don't really know what they're so good at, like when you should use them? You're constantly worried. You don't want to keep long resting. You like short rest, but long resting is a little annoying for you, but you want to use this powerful magic. Well, Warlock might actually be great for you because it does not count as caster levels. So when you're mixing this with other classes, it's not always intuitive how it works together. But if you're always just investing into the Warlock, these naturally get more and more powerful, and they always come back on short rest. So instead of getting your instead you get your spell slots back on short rest, not just long rest. And so if you think about it, you have 3 long rest or short rest periods in a day. And so you could think of that as like 2 or 3 or more battles per day, right? Where you can just use all your short rest stuff, and then short rest after the fight. You won, you used every trick in the book. Now you can short rest, get all your spells back, and go into the next fight with these 2 spell slots. And you know that they're always max level. You don't have to manage how powerful they're going to be. If they have an upcast condition, they get stronger as you go along. And so I really highly recommend Warlock as an interesting way to be a spellcaster, not just a melee or an Eldritch Blaster, but also a spellcaster. And they're always currently the max level that they can be as you level up your Warlock. So if you're worried about casting magic and how to use your resources, well, don't worry anymore, because you can cast Darkness here, right? And then you can cast maybe Witch Bolt here, right? Okay? And you've blown your magic in a fight, but then you just short rest and they're back, and they're always the max level, so you don't have to manage things. I think it's really valuable to learning those spellcasting abilities. It's not the strongest spellcaster, but it's really fun and unique. Even after you've had your fill with spellcasters, you can come back to Warlock and have a different experience. And what about these invocations? So there's a lot of them. I'm going to highlight a few of them, but on our character right here, I've taken Agonizing Blast and I've taken Devil's Sight, and we'll see why, right? But if we look at some of the more powerful choices, Agonizing and Repelling Blast relate back to your Eldritch Blast. Agonizing, okay, let's back up for a second. Eldritch Blast uses your attack roll. It's sort of like your bow and arrow. Your accuracy from your bow and arrows and your crossbows comes from your dexterity, right? So think of it as the same thing, but with charisma. It works almost identically to that. It has the same range as a crossbow or a longbow, 60 foot, and you're going to attack in mostly a straight line. With Eldritch Blast, it is straight up, a straight line. And the really nice thing about Eldritch Blast is the force damage, okay? But you only get accuracy, or the attack roll, out of your charisma stat. So currently with Actor, I get a +4 bonus to my accuracy, so I can land this pretty decently. Look, I can hit Lae'zel or Shadowheart. You know, they have decent armor class, but maybe these goblins, if we run over here, just like a bow and arrow, there's, you know, height differences. But okay, 65, 70, pretty decent accuracy in the early game with no boost, okay? All right, so with Agonizing, though, I take that same +4 bonus, and I add this to my damage, just like the dexterity right here, +3, would add to my dexterity damage on a crossbow or a longbow, okay? So now it literally is just like using bows and crossbows, okay? So that's the power of using Agonizing Blast. It's a stock standard for anyone who's going to use Eldritch Blast. You go 2 levels into your Warlock, and you take that. Repelling is really interesting because you can turn this feature on and off once you have this invocation, but it's going to add the ability to push targets with your Eldritch Blast. So if I were to hit this guy with Repelling Blast, if I hit him, he'll also go flying like a good 10 or 15 feet. It's really powerful. It's subtle how powerful it is, simply because pushing targets might actually, you know, throw them off a cliff. It's just something I have to live with. All right. Devil's Sight is extremely powerful if you understand the combo with Darkness, but just on its face, the difference with this is Devil's Sight is essentially a really good choice for, say, a human or a Githyanki character, because it's basically, you can see here, a distance of 80 feet, and we can see in darkness, both magical and non-magical. Well, just for stock standard reasons, we can think of this as basically superior dark vision. If you're in the Underdark with a human character, he's going to love this because now he's not going to be hindered and have disadvantage on his ranged attacks, okay? So it's really going to help you blast in the dark areas with your ranged attack. But there is a unique combo we'll get into with darkness and why it's so powerful, because remember it says magical and non-magical, okay? Then there's the Shadow Invocation, which essentially just gives you mage armor. I like this, but sometimes you can always just find scrolls of mage armor for your character, or you have a caster on your team, and if you're using no armor, you can just cast this on yourself. So it's a nice invocation if you don't have that already, and if you're just... Warlocks don't get the ability to wear armor, so you can just use this invocation to always have a free mage armor per long rest, okay? So that's nice too. And Disguise Self is deceptively good, no pun intended. If you're able to change your disguise, like Shadowheart here, with an invocation you can change yourself to, say, a female drow, and you can get through a lot of these dialogue options just by being a drow. And I'll give you an example. So if I walk up here, hopefully I get in the dialogue. Goblins absolutely are intimidated by female drows, right? So you get unique dialogue options depending on what disguise you use in certain dialogues. And so in honor mode, this is crazy good, right? Cease your babbling, blah, 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 deception. If I deceive him, I have a 5 because I'm a drow, right? And even though I have bad charisma, I could probably still get this, right? So all because I changed my disguise. So don't understate or don't underestimate how powerful an invocation like Disguise Self could be, giving your Warlock this powerful ritual spell. Alright? Now, let's get into some combat related stuff, right? We got Pact of the Blade. So naturally, Pact of the Blade, like I said, you get 2 things out of this, and you can think of this as a subclass choice almost, because you can either get Pact of the Tome, Pact of the Chain, or Pact of the Blade. And just to keep things simple, the reason this is so popular of a choice is, again, that hybrid type of gameplay, okay? So whereas before I might be relying on a ranged cantrip and some of my spell slots for gameplay and combat, now with Pact of the Blade, I can summon just about any weapon type I want if I can't find a pretty good weapon, right? But let's say I did find a really good weapon. Let's pretend this mace was like a pretty decent +2 mace, right? I can now bind it. And so you can see right here, I don't have good accuracy. or damage. It's +2 and a 1d6. There's almost no bonuses because I have no strength. It's a strength weapon. So even if I don't have proficiency, and even if I don't have the right stat for it, once I bind this weapon to me, 1, it cannot be dropped, but 2, I now use my charisma modifier, this +4. So I have a nice charisma bonus to accuracy and a charisma bonus to damage, and so I can be an effective melee combatant with this, okay? And that's why people like it. So now, again, charisma is the only stat you really have to worry about, even as a melee fighter. Any weapon can now be proficient, even if your class or race doesn't have proficiency in it. It's essentially now a regular martial fighter. You're just as good as a paladin, fighter, ranger at martial, because at level 5, thanks to this pact, you will actually be able to go extra attack and swing twice per action. 1 and 2 using your green action point here, okay? So Eldritch Blast, we've just talked about it, so I won't belabor this too much, but the key highlights here is it really is, in practice, the best cantrip, and there's some reasons for it. I won't get too heady with it, but force damage is a big one. As you play through Tactician and Honor Mode, if you take this seriously, right, force damage doesn't have ways to make it double like lightning or cold, but force damage is usually not resisted or immune to at all. And in fact, there's some things like the environment or certain enemies that take bonus damage from force damage while being immune to everything else. Force damage really is just the general best damage in the game, but you know, you can make cases for anything. Regardless, this is always going to be reliable as an attack option, okay? It also upgrades at level 5. You get not 1 beam, but you can actually shoot 2 beams at level 5, and even better, at level 10, it becomes 3 beams. So everything we boost to this happens 2 or even 3 times because we shoot 3 projectiles, and this gets stronger no matter how you level up your Warlock. You can go 2 levels of Warlock, and then 10 levels in something else, and this will still get stronger because it's based on your class level, right? Your total level, not your Warlock level. There's also plenty of ways to make it overpowered, but that's really not what this video is about. Really what we care about here is that even early on, we can make it more powerful with how strong our charisma bonuses are, okay? So obviously we're going to use that. And it's a really great early game ranged weapon. While everybody else is using bows and crossbows, you don't even have to go find one of these, right? You don't have to go find a good one. You just have good old reliable Eldritch Blast, and you can hit your targets with that. And there's 2 invocations, like I said. We've already talked about what they do, but Agonizing Blast is going to add your charisma to damage, not just accuracy, and Repelling Blast is going to be able to push things. So if you can target it this right, you can actually push somebody off a cliff into a hole, and goodbye, they're dead, right? Now, last but not least, especially not least, is we can actually come on over here back on the rooftops one more time. Okay. Now, something important to note is Eldritch Blast, while we did boost its accuracy and damage with that +4, right? It's still only an 80%. And there's always the chance of a critical miss, which is hitting a 1 on the dice, right? That sucks. And not to mention, while I do have mage armor from maybe getting the invocation or having a spellcaster buff me, I'm not wearing any armor, and not everybody can wear a shield, so I might only have 16 armor class, right? And there's really not a lot of good gear early on for casters, even warlocks. But let me show you something really powerful. Let's say you did take Agonizing Blast as your invocation, so we could do more damage with our Eldritch Blast. And let's say you took the other invocation out of the 2 is Devil's Sight. So yeah, I could go into the Underdark and I won't miss my shots, but here's the powerful thing about Devil's Sight, not Dark Vision. If you have the Darkness spell that you get at level 3 Warlock, you're going to be able to cast this 6 times per long rest, because these come back on short rest. You can cast 2 of them, and as long as you can maintain concentration, let me just show you the power of Darkness. Devil's Sight lets me shoot through this, and if a target can't see me, they can't hit me, right? And if they don't start combat with me, I can just keep blasting them. And even if they do start detecting where I'm coming from, I can always just keep blasting them, and they likely can't hit me. And this is as early as level 3. Oh my gosh, stop running around. Here we go. Even if I miss, who cares? Alright. Then we come back here, and once again, I can just keep blasting. And even better than this, you'll see, like this one's already dead. Even better than this, if conditions are right, I'll actually get advantage on my shots because I'm more accurate and I can't hit roll a 1 on my attack rolls, right? Like this guy is now in the cloud, so he's basically blinded. So now I should be able to get advantage on him. So the cloud blinds targets if they're in it, but I can't be blinded by magical darkness, that is the darkness spell. So my shot is even more accurate and will never critically miss, right? Because I have advantage. So you're dead easily. And this is insanely strong, especially in honor mode, level 3. And your allies can utilize this too. They might be blinded in this cloud, but they can just keep running out, taking a shot, and running back in. And it's extremely powerful. Okay? Now we can cancel this, I think. We'll just wait one more turn. Come out of this. Not to mention that Pact magic I talked about. We may not even need to use this cloud, because maybe we can just try and use a hold person. Let's get this guy locked down. So again, if you're too intimidated by how the spell slots work, you can always just kind of like use a Warlock, and you have the best of all worlds, right? You can be a melee fighter, you can be a range attacker, or even a spellcaster, lock them down, beat the crap out of them. It's kind of crazy what you can do at just level 3 and 4 as a Warlock, right? So I'm going to give you a major dialogue example in honor mode, right? And I'll try and do a combat example as well. So let me reload this. We're going to go over to the Githyanki's, and I'm going to kind of show you the power of having a charisma character as your face or main character, as we call it, right? So like I said, let's pick up that actor skill. Let's take this, let's take hold person, and let's take actor to make ourselves really persuasive, or rather, really deceptive and have high performance checks. Let's walk over to Joaquin's Rest. And so keep in mind, again, this is in honor mode settings. I know this is a custom game where I can reload things and all that, but this is still the same difficulty. This is still like, if you were playing honor mode, you don't get any chances to fight back or reload and, you know, change things when they screw up. So when you know your stuff and you have high deception or persuasion bonuses and charisma, right, you can bring your guy down here, the Warlock. We'll get into the dialogue, and the nice thing about this is we have Lae'zel, so we can use her to help convince Voss not to murder us and not even fight us at level 4, right? Alright. So, just let Lae'zel fight, or talk, right? She approves, she even likes you for doing that.
Speak up, child.
Now, I'm going to persuade Lae'zel using my persuasion charisma and my proficiency bonuses that you should just play along. Alright? Again, let's go ahead and use guidance from Shadowheart, or actually, I have a guidance talisman. Shadowheart can boost it. And if you know your stuff on dialogue and you're using those charisma bonuses, you should be able to guarantee something as simple as 10, right? So let's do that. I got 6, but with the bonuses, I go up to 12. And even more with guidance, so there you go. If I use advantage, I don't ever roll a critical 1 and get screwed over by that too. So, Lae'zel's gonna play along, convince him to go away. Guess what? We just won the fight. We got 315 and 60 XP for the whole team. Lae'zel's now leveled up. She still loves us. It's fantastic, right? So, the power of dialogue, the power of using charisma out of combat, having those proficiencies or even deception bonuses, right? So that's what I'm trying to get out there, okay? We can now go over to the Risen Road, and I'm not going to do the full fight, but I want to kind of show you that powerful, cheesy combo, okay? Or actually, let's come over here and like, we can fight the paladins, okay? A little bit quicker of a fight. And you can do this at level 3. I just have the level 4 actor. It's my only bonus here, really. Okay, let's actually step upside. If you've never known how to do this fight a little bit easier, you can come up here. Have the high ground advantage. Alright. Okie dokie. Get everybody up here. I'm gonna open the door. Remember, I have a Pact weapon so I can fight melee, but I also have a ranged attack. What I'm gonna actually do is kind of piss everybody off by getting rid of this ladder. Hey, you can't do that. Hey, I can do whatever I want. Eldritch Blast! Woohoo! Alright. So. Nice. Ooh, that hurt. We gotta get out of here. Alright, cool. Hey, what's up, guys? Alright, we're gonna take some healing. Get myself back in order. Alright. Set up the team a little bit. And here's the thing. With Shadowheart, since she is a cleric, let's go ahead and give our attackers some bless. There you go. And I think Lae'zel can just be standing by, getting ready to fight. There we go. And the whole team, by the way, doesn't have anything, so let's go ahead, take away the notes on this one. As you can see here, nothing special, no special gear or whatever here. Alright, so here comes Anders standing on a box. It's pretty interesting. Alright. I'm going to heal up again. And I will establish a little dead zone that they can't touch me in, for the most part. Alright. And as long as I don't lose concentration, which I probably can't, because it's hard to hit me in there, hard to even target me in there, but I can target them, remember. And this creates a defensive and offensive zone where I can take the advantage against my attackers. So let the AI kind of figure out what the hell's going on in this one. I've already like critically hit Anders. Oh man. There we go. They're finally figuring out. We should probably go up the ladder outside. There we go. Alright. Nice try. Get a reaction attack in. Good stuff. Alright, so the Warlock himself does not have to keep going in and out of this zone, right? This powerful cheesy combo allows me to hit. Since you can't see me, I can sometimes even get advantage on my shots. So this almost always hits. And because of that agonizing blast, we do even more bonus damage against our attackers, right? So that's cool. If they were to come in here, I can even hit them with my mace with advantage. And even funnier than that, if we need a little zone for our guys to hide in, they can do that. So I'll attack. If I hit or not, doesn't matter to me. We can now run into the safety cloud. Alright, since we have Bless on Shadowheart, she doesn't want to lose that concentration. Let's maybe walk her back, right? And then Lae'zel, obviously a melee fighter, comes up here, hits, and then walks away into the safety cloud. Alright, now let's see how this round of combat goes for them. Anders is still extremely confused in the barrels, which is hilarious. Maybe he's just so afraid of the Warlock. I know what you really are. My patron's afraid of your patron. You better be afraid. Alright. Whatever, Anders. Let's go. And now Cyril's gonna come up here. Yep. That's an interesting place. Alright, and what are they gonna do? They can't hit us, and they know it, so they're gonna try and reposition, which is hilarious, because if we need to, we can even either attack from the cloud, or we can always just kind of attack, and then walk back in, right? So, I can probably hit you right here. There we go. If I miss, it's fine, I get back into my safety cloud, and so on and so forth, okay? You can even have somebody out here as bait, so they finally, like, start coming back down here. But yeah, this effectively makes me invincible, and honestly, the more characters you can abuse the darkness with, great. But even if you can't abuse darkness with that blind immunity or the devil sight feature from Warlocks, this is still a very powerful defensive control, and you can manipulate terrains with this, and even better, your Warlock can stand in it and really control the battlefield. So I think that's going to be it for now, because I don't want to like go through the whole fight for you. I think that highlights my point in both dialogue and in combat. I usually say, how do you level up and play these builds? So this is why I made a video like this, and I've done it for a few other builds, so go check them out. How to make a barbarian or a monk early and play them, okay? Or you can always just come watch the live stream and see how I play throughout Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, because I always play on honor mode for the sake of not just being a tough guy and being like, oh, I'm so good at this game, but I want to see other people play it. I think it's the best mode, and that's why I try to do little demonstrations like this, highlighting the powers and strengths, even early in Act 1 like this, with, say, a Warlock, okay? And I like to answer requests, comments in the chat, in the comments of the video, so just if you have a question, just drop it. I love answering that stuff. I get good ideas from you guys anyways, because you guys are my sponsors. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this helped you out in your early game in honor mode or even tactician, right? But yeah, I've made member support as low as can be, so if you want to support the channel, I appreciate you doing that. But of course, the best support is if this video helped you. Appreciate you, and I'll have another one out, and hopefully I'll see you in the stream. You guys take it easy, and I'll check you out next time.